Hello, friends, and welcome back to Restore You. It is Angela, and I hope you're all doing well. For those of you who are returning, welcome back. And for those of you new to the channel, hello and welcome. Specifically today, Ashley, Too Much Bliss, and WJC Seattle. Welcome to the channel. Thanks for your comments and for subscribing. I appreciate it very, very much. I am here with a kind of fun, different haul. I don't do a lot of organizing on camera because to me, I know some of you think I'm crazy, but it is very therapeutic for me. But I do have really like processes that I use every single time I'm working on, you name it, whether it's my stamps, whether it's my books, whether it's my scraps. And today we're going to talk about scraps. So normally what I do is after each project, I go through all my scraps, I sort them in a way I'll show you in a moment, and then move on to my next project. Well, I kind of was lackadaisical about that, and I ended up with tons of scraps and needed to do something about it. This box is my scraps of ribbons, and it was literally like overflowing. And I had this, and then I had, this is my, see, I'm showing you this because it's now empty. This is my collapsible little scrap bag from Target. And so I keep that kind of up and to the side, and then I throw all my scraps as I'm working into that bin. Well, then I also had this full. This is just a homemade box that I used. This is for all my larger pieces. And not only that, but I then had, I have one 12 by 12 box, and that's just like my plain paper, some of my music paper, tea and coffee stain paper that's just kind of ongoing. And I just, sometimes I sort that, and sometimes I just keep adding to it. I use enough of it that it doesn't get out of control. This is the one that I use to keep after I've sorted my scraps. And it too was like a mess. Now I know it looks to you like there's still a lot in here, but I will explain that there really isn't. And there's a reason for all of these bags because I want you to see what they're for. So here's the first thing that I do. I take all of my scraps, everything from those different places, and the first thing that I sort are, and usually it's just one, but from projects. So here's just one bag. These are all papers that I did from that cookbook that I did this winter. Remember, I was under the weather for a while, so it didn't get sorted. But these are all like papers from that project. Now, I put any of those together, usually not in baggies, but in this case I did because I am doing another memory book. And so I think I can use some of these. So I'm going to put these aside with that other project. So that's the first thing I do. Any other ones that I have, I put them in like papers if there's a significant amount. Okay? Easy enough. Then what I do, hang on, I gotta get to them. Then I go through and I sort everything out by size. Now, I do that for a reason. So like I've got my, these strips. These I know that I can use in the future for, they're a little too small to use for tag bases, but I can use them for belly bands. I can use them for clusters. So I put all of those together. Go through all of my scraps, put them all together. I then do the same thing, and then I have my large papers, and then I have my smaller papers. And, I've got all these sizes. I've got ripped pieces of paper. It's just, everywhere. So then I think about, what can I use all of these for? And I've left these out and not put them back to where I want them to be because I think we might use some of these today. So I wanted to be able to show you. So then I've got my larger pieces all separated and I've got my strips. Okay. So now what I do after I have, and then I sort all my smaller strips. So I sort strips of like sizes, if you will. And sometimes I have them, sometimes I don't. But if I don't think that they're going to be, like these were all just kind of like sized pieces. And then whatever I have that is I call viable scraps. So that would mean they would make good backing. They would make good tags. They would make good journal cards. If it's a viable piece or something that I can break down into smaller pieces, that's when I do this. So this one, for example, it's a little bit, I mean, this one actually, these two pieces could be just kept and used for another cover or whatever. I'm going to stick those strips into the long strip basket for now. So what I would do is go through all my papers that are similar and break them down now. So I hate to cut this one. I'm going to keep I'm going to keep this one aside because I might use it for something. But for anything that's, you know, these kind of sizes, what I will do is, so this one happens to be, let's just say, this one is 7.5. I should be 12. Okay, 7.5 by 12. So I'm just going to make this 6 by 6. Just for the sake of doing this. It'll be easier that way. Uh-oh. Holy moly. We got a problem. Oh, we have a big problem. I have lost. Huh. Okay, well, we'll just do this a different way. I'm hoping that I'm going to have to look. No, that's not going to work that way, Ange. Shoot, where is that? How can I, that never falls off. Okay, let's just move this aside. I'm thinking it must be in here somewhere. Let me just take one more peek. I've got all of my trimmers and such in one spot. I don't see it down here on the floor. I'm just looking. Come on, come. Oh, I found it. Hallelujah. Whew. Okay. Crisis averted. I don't know. That's weird. And just for the sake of this, I know it's a little bit wasteful, but I'm going to do it anyway because... So now these are now 6 by 6, and these can go into that small stack here, and I can use them for something else, okay? So I just do that, whether it's 4 by 6, whether it's 6 by 6, whether it's 5 by 7. And then I sort them all into, this is a very pretty box, and it's pretty long. I think it's about 24 inches, maybe not quite. And this is all of my scraps that are what I call viable. So I break these down. Let's see, if I hold this like this, maybe you'll be able to see. So first of all, let me grab these two. I'm just going to put them where they should be. So this is about the 6 by 6 area. And what I do is, sometimes I do my projects and just stick them all in there and don't worry about it again. But at least, you know, every quarter, 3 to 4 times a year, I will go through this. And if I haven't used some of this paper, it goes. And somebody else gets gifted this paper. So I've already done that. And I just have, you know, these all broke down by, you know, various sizes all the way up to 8 by 8. So there are a few paper stacks in here. These are new vellum stacks that I got. And I want to use them. These are from Amazon. They should be in my 2 Restore You Essential. Oh, I think they're from, I'm pretty sure. If they're from Amazon, they will be on here. Otherwise, they may be from Stationery Pal. And just a few other little, you know, things that if I put them somewhere else, I probably will not use them. So I do have some bought pieces, but that's how I organize all my scraps. This is the only thing that then goes on my, remember I have the 3-tiered vintage kitchen rack, and I'm putting this right back to where it goes. And that is where my, again, what I call my viable scraps goes. And it's there all the time. So now I've sorted all those, and then I end up with, you know, all these extra things that I have, you know, lying around. And that's when I start creating with them. And I'm going to go through, I think I ended up with 34 or 35 different things that we can create with all of our scraps. And I'm going to keep these out because we may need them. And so I'm just going to show you what I do. Now, the first thing that you can obviously do to use up those scraps. Now, everything that I am showing you, literally I did in one whole day because I wanted to see, I didn't want to share this with you and say, oh, no problem, you can get through this. You know, and I was taking breaks here and there and cooking dinner and things like that. But this is, you know, one day of me just busting through all my scraps. And the way that I do this is I know you guys are going to think, oh my gosh, but I have an ongoing list. Right now I have 35 different things that I can create. When I go through that list, I get every supply that I might need. And so what I want you to do is as I go through, I will tell you what supplies I use. So if you want to create your own list, the beautiful thing is that like I did this upstairs in my kitchen, you know, while I was hanging out with the kids or, you know, while I was tending laundry, but wanted to craft in between. So I had one project bin. I had all of my scraps and all of my supplies that I might need. And I took them upstairs and I used them. So you know, you have everything once. So you're not getting out things 10 or 15 times to keep busting through your scraps. You're going to be way more productive and you're going to have a lot more fun not having to search for things. So I keep this in my, along with my with my templates and my sample book. It's all, I reorganize that too, but it's all in one spot. To me, it's just a good place to keep it. And every time that I'm going to do this, I go through my list, I get my supplies together, I take my scraps up, or I do it right here in my craft room, and I'm done. Then these are all the supplies, so I'm going to, you know, keep that. So I wrote all this out, and then if I add something, then I'll just add to those supplies. And then I also wrote down my process because, you know, I'm only doing this like every 3 months. So I know this works for me, so why not keep doing it? So the first thing I do, sort on my scraps. I cut my viable pieces for future tags, and I put them in that cut box, if you will. And then I separate things like in this order. I do strips, tag size, big pieces, things that would be collage worthy. And then I do my and I do that with small papers and large papers. And then I do my small lace and fabric and my large lace and fabric. And I know the easiest way that you probably are familiar with is just doing collage. And you know, and you've seen this collage book many, many times. And yes, it is definitely a way to bust up your scraps. Like this one's still in progress, right? And there's so many pages that I've already used. It's actually getting pretty, it's almost time for me to move on to another one. But this is a great way to get rid of your scraps. This is not where I start, ever. So after I have done all the other projects that I'm showing you, then I collage. Because then those are your true scraps. So I think I've done this as, you know, loosely, as in the order that I actually make things, because I think it's important. Oh my goodness, that scared me. If I work from my largest projects to my smallest projects, then I'm using the most of all of my paper scraps. And it is most productive, if you will. So here's some of my collages. I just then leave them in the book. So from my last clean out, what I ended up with were just these 2 bags. This is all I have left. I mean, it might look like a lot, but it's really not, of items I can collage. And my napkins are in here too. This is what I will do after all these after this video is done, is I will go back and I will start collaging. I haven't done it yet. Now, I'm going to put these aside because in my scrap bin, the one thing that always stays the same in my scrap bin, first of all, this book that I didn't know why I bought it has ended up being fabulous for, you know, the color. But this is what I go to when I need, you know, quick colored book page, if I need whatever. I've got these old photos. They're not really great quality. You can't see the images so well. Always keep this in here at the ready in my scraps, and these are the ones that I go to all the time. And then I have all of my splattered papers, all of my, you know, there's, ooh, and I got to show you something too. Like this is a napkin that I did some distress spray on, but these are things that I go to all the time in all my projects. Let's see if this is dry. It is. Look at this one. One of the things that I did yesterday when I was doing my scrap busting, this evolved. And I never keep baby wipes, but let's see if the other one's dry. It's not. It is. And here's one that's a little bit lighter. I'm sticking those in there. I never save baby wipes. I know a lot of people do. I just don't. So that is that. And then this is just, there's book page. There's, you know, just writing paper, music paper, that kind of thing. That's all that is in this bag, or in this little tote. And then these are just some, there's some cardstock and a piece of cardboard and, you know, some just random things that are big, but I use them quite a bit. There's a file folder, and those just stay right where they are in their little spot on that little cart. And that's all I ever have. So I constantly can stay up on these. So then this is going to be the last thing that you do is your collaging. And easy peasy lemon squeezy. All right. So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to show you these projects one by one. We are not creating all of them, although I do have a few that I am creating, which I should probably put over here so I don't forget. The first is creating notebooks. So you've got all these pages and papers that you can, these are some of my little, I don't know if these are jelly prints and things. I wasn't loving them, but then I put them in this little notebook. Cute. Here's another one. I had some matching papers. They were all the same size. So just kind of like, you know, all of these, they were already that size. So I made it into a notebook. So notebooks. Easy. The next thing is tags and journal cards. So here are a couple. This tag was from that, another piece of that larger piece of paper. And oh, by the way, I create all the things that I'm going to create. Then when I'm all finished, then I go back and I decorate. And I'll explain why as we get through this process. So I created this, set it aside. Later on, I went back and added the ribbon and sewed it. Okay, so it's just a double little pocket. Or a card, or journal card. Let's see, what did I say? Here is one that I did. This is with my wax seal. Again, I, used my punch, which I usually, again, wait and use my punches all at once. It just depends, but, so I made this journal card. This I made a little bit later. And then I decorated it yet later. So, again, create your bases, come back and make it pretty. This, in addition, we make pockets, but I want to show you how to do this. So let me get that. But we've also got pockets. So, these were just 2 scraps. This one I found, I found this library thing. So I just set it aside. And when I was ready to do embellishing, I added this and finally got to use my little V-dub in there. So super cute. Here's another pocket. This was just 1 sheet, folded it up, put it aside. I did sew. I added the embellishments, then sewed. Here's a little envelope. Same thing. So you get the gist. And remember, I'm working from my biggest pieces down because you would hate to work on your smaller pieces and make more scraps and not be able to make some, you know, significant things for your stash, right? Okay. So this is a Cascade card. It's very simple. You've probably seen me make these before. It's just got some of the matching papers, and I'll show you how I did this. This was the offcut of the, nope, here's the one. This is the offcut of this one. It's just a smaller version. Easy. So here's one already put together, but let me show you how I do these. Let's just get us some paper. Okay. Let's see. And you can put these any way you want. Let's see. Oh, I like, did I already? Let's use this polka dot one. I don't know if I've used that one yet or not. I had a lot of this paper because this is part of the cookbook journal. Or no, that was another project, I guess. So if I were done with these, I'd put them right back into my little viable use again box. My linen, I don't know, I think it was probably like a scented linen roll. Let's see. The other one had, what did it have on the top? It had the red, so we don't want the red on there. Why don't we do the polka dot? We'll put the red in the back. So then what I do is I just say, okay, this is going to be my back. And you could flip them either way if you want, but I'm just going to do these all in the same. Let's come down a little bit further. So this one I want to land about there. Want a little bit more of that black to show. And then this white one's going to go on the top, okay? So now I have my cascade. So when it flips, they will all flip accordingly. Now, my longest piece is right here. So the bottom piece is the longest. So I'm cutting this right here on that, where that longest piece is. And just to make it simple, I'm going to cut them off just like this. Okay. There is my flip. And it says I have low battery. Imagine that. And then, just for the time being, I'm going to staple it across the top. I can leave it like this, or I can make it into a tag. Now, I've already got 2 pieces of ephemera. That one's kind of boring. That's okay. We're going to do it anyway. Just out of 4 pieces of paper. Done. Okay? Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Okay, let's see. Index cards. So I had a bunch of this craft paper from a project, and I had a couple, you saw them in that big one that I keep just because it's really heavy and it works really well. But I created just some file folders. Now this one I just freestyled it. All right, so far all we need is scraps of paper and fabric. We need a collage book for later on. We need some glue, some scissors, and then a stapler. So if you're making your list, add that on there. I don't know if I have stapler on there. Oh my goodness, we better add that. I don't even have stapler on there. Stapler. I guess I always have that stapler, so I don't think about it. All right, but if you don't want to, hand draw your index card, and I made mine into a file folder, but you could make one just like this, where it's just single. And you can also just use your template and cut right around it. This is just one that was somewhere in my stash. And all you're going to do, and if you're going to do index cards and you don't want to do them by hand, then write down on your supply list that you need some index cards as templates. Do I have that on my list? No. Okay. And I think I want to cut this down a little bit. Maybe what I'll do, and I'm not using my scoreboard. I mean, if you're doing this in your craft room, nah, I don't like that. I'll just cut off a little bit. Then you have all your supplies right there, but scrap busting to me is a great thing to do. I'm not even inking this yet. I'm not even corner rounding it yet. I'm just making my base. I'll come back and do all of that later. So, should we add index cards to our list? Index cards as templates. And I'm also going to put on there other templates, because sometimes you want different size tags or whatever. And I have a little thing of templates. You know, here's different kinds of tags. Here's one that was a credit card that I used. There's some circles. So if that's something that you prefer, then grab out whatever templates that you want. All right, so that is done. And I'm going to keep these out separate because I will put these in with my list, so I know that I'm always going to grab that out. Okay, let's see. How many have we done? I don't know, but we're just going to do this next. Now, this might not be one that you would necessarily do as a scrap buster. I have had a bunch of acetate. This is from one of my old Cricut mats. And I also found, as I was going through my goodies, where did I put them? Right here. That I had done a bunch of different, we made specimen cards a while ago. So I had all of these. Now, I didn't do many of these. This is something I can do as my scrap buster later. But I thought, well, I might as well use the acetate. I'm just looking for one that's, oh, here's one that's already a tag. Heck yeah, we'll use that. And I'll show you how I do these. That one's got a couple of them. But some of them, depending on where, let's see. This one maybe. Yeah. So I'll show you how I do these. I'm just going to fold this in half. And I'm going to put all of these aside. And what I normally would have done is just done all of them all at the same time. But I wanted to show you guys. So they'll go back in my scrap. I'm going to put them right in my little round bucket so I know to get back to them. So this is what I created. I just took one of these, put the acetate on it, and closed this up. Then I put some writing space on the back, and then I just made a little card, a journal card to go in it. So the way that you do that, you guys, this can't get any easier than I'm going to show you here. You only need enough space to cover. Now you could do it so this whole thing, why don't we do one that way? Okay. So I'm going to say, we'll just do it the whole length. I'm kind of being wasteful in my acetate, but that's okay. We'll do one this way so you can see how you would just do a clear one. Gosh, now I can't see it. Really, Angela? Oh, gosh. Didn't I put 2 marks on that? I'm sure I did. Oh, yay. I'm just putting this on the light so I can see it. Goodness gracious. All right. That's close enough. All right. Now I still have this little piece. Hopefully it'll fit. It does. Another one. Okay. And I have this bigger piece. I'm just creating more scrap. All right. Let's see. Can you see that? Okay. What happened to my... All right. So let's go ahead and glue this on. And for the sake of this, I'm going to cut this just so it's not in the way. I could just fold it over. It's a little hard to fold, so let's not mess with it. I'm going to use art glitter glue on this, and I'm just covering up. I didn't use art glitter glue last time, but I just realized that I made this cute little dangle. And that pin, that what I thought was stainless steel pin, it was not stainless steel. Okay. And I just glue that down. It does spread out pretty good. Use my wipe. Now, let's just see. Do I have anything handy? Or do I go for it? We're just going to grab this. Hang on, it might shake. This is above my camera, which is hooked to my shelf. Let's just get in here and grab out a quick little flower. What was on the front of this? Okay, that's what it looks like. So let's see if we can find something. Ooh, what's in here? Oh my goodness, those fit in there. Let's see if we got a rose one. These I just showed in a recent video. Okay, those are like individual pieces. Oh, here. I'm so excited. I kept this whole box in there because it actually fit. I mean, I don't know how long. I don't need to buy any flowers for a very long time. I'm just going to set this aside in case we need it. Okay, let me grab my trusty little... Oh, there's two. No wonder. Do we want that one? Or do we want this one? This one seems to go a little bit better, doesn't it? Okay, I'm going to try this because I haven't before. This is a sticker. I'm thinking, do I want to just stick it? I think I'm just going to stick the whole thing on there. Will it fit though? Barely. But it will. We're just going to do it. That way we don't have to use another piece of acetate to put over the back. I think it will be just fine. Trust me, I usually have to use the double-sided tape to get off the stickers, so I'm pretty sure it's not going to go anywhere. And if you haven't seen, I'm sure you guys have seen me use the double-sided tape to pull off those stickers that are really hard. If you haven't, I'm sure either today or in one of my other videos I'll be showing you, because I do it all the time. I want this to come down a little bit. Make sure it's on. Ooh, here we go. Now I gotta straighten it quickly. Ooh, I got a little glue on there. On the inside. Aw. Hopefully that will. There you have it. Ta-da. Now, if you wanted, you could work on your punches first and then come back and do some of your some cards, so then you have something to use them with. All right, and this one we're just going to put in. I don't know that I really have anything to go in here. Oh, you know what? Maybe I have one of my butterflies. I have these butterflies that I've been playing with, experimenting with. Let's see. Where are those? Oh, they're back here. Let's see if I have one. You know, we could just cut one of these out black and white and then just not even use this acetate. That's what we're going to do. But which one do we cut out? I kind of want to use this dragonfly. But they're all too near each other. Ooh, that one will work. Will it? No. Shoot. Too big. All right, well, that was a great idea. Here's what we will do instead. We'll just put this in here. And when you get to the point of which you are going to get your stamps out, then you can get some stays on. Make sure you use something that's not going to smudge. And then you can do just like we did with our specimen cards and print right on this acetate. If you wanted, you can close it up. If you don't want to close it up all the way so you can tuck something in there, which I'm going to do, then you just add a line of glue right here at the bottom and right here. And I feel like it might need to be zoomed in a little bit. So again, you know, maybe you set aside some of these papers that you really like and you use them in some of the punch projects later and then come back and make some of these. So there you go. Another way to use your scraps. All right. We'll put this aside to put away in a little bit. All right, what do we have now? Oh, punches and belly bands. So let's talk about punches and belly bands. I got so many punches to show you. All right, so first, I get circle punches out. I have a tag punch. I have tab punches. And so I just popped out a bunch of circles. Some of them I just punched holes in. Some of them I added a couple things and added a bulb pin. Add bulb pins to your list if you want. Here's some tags that got there. Got this. This is one of my punches. Did a bunch of those. These are all scraps. This one I folded in half and used my punch that way. You do have to like cut off. There'll be a little piece up here and a little piece here. You'll have to cut that off. I did that one. This is one of my watercolor. Here's some. Okay. I did not embellish these, but I will. But these are just like, they're cool. They got a cool vintage feel to them, but there's nothing. Like, they're just bad pictures. And these, they were of cemeteries. And I was like, eh. So I'll cover them and they'll be pretty and nobody will be the wiser. So I did all of those, matter of minutes, right? So there's one punch idea. Of course, these haven't been embellished at all, so I am going to probably keep these aside with a couple other things so that I can add to it. I also did these. So I just used the punch and I made a circle belly band. Glue, 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 glue. End of story. You got your belly band. I can file that under my belly band category. I also had a bunch of flower punches, all of which I have gotten at thrift stores. So I just started punching out these random flowers. And then I added them all. And then when it was time to embellish, I just added the little ribbon. This is just a piece of my Kool-Aid dyed paper. Now, I had leftover items from those flowers. Oh, no, I didn't. Here's where I'll save these. Still on the flower spectrum, but let me show you where. I'm going to keep that there so you can see it. Tabs. That was the other thing that I created. So I have a tab punch like this. I have a single tab punch like this. I'm not a big fan, but I did punch them out. And then I showed you, oh, I need to write that down. I need to add my whale tail video. So if you haven't seen it, you can go find it easily. So I make all my own whale tails. So I made tons and tons of those. And then these are all the ones I made that were from the tab punch. And these are from the other one that are just single tab punches. Now, if I were to do this again, I would only make the single tab punches with cardstock that was double-sided. Just my preference, because otherwise I don't like them and I end up having to put them together. So this will all go in my tabs bin, so it will be all be ready to roll. And then from those off scraps from when I did all of the, well, this is one of these flowers. I just put it on top of each other, and then now I have a separate little flower. But these were all the, I'm calling them petals from my whale tails. This was what was left over, so I made them into little flowers. And these are all individual little pieces. I just cut a punch, popped all of these on. Boom, done. And then I also, which I probably wouldn't do these until I did clusters. This is when I did these. But I just did torn circle, or, you know, like hand-torn circles. Put them on top of each other. And eventually when I went to my sewing machine, sewed them into torn flowers. And I am showing you 35 ways. I know that it doesn't probably seem like it because I'm going quite quick. But you do have 35 ways. Okay. Let's see. Ruffles. You've seen me do ruffles before. Here is what I created. I just put aside some of those long strips. Waited till it was sewing machine time. And then I created those. So there you have it. I do mine a lot of times all in one row and then just cut them off. There is a video that I will link below. Now I've got more ruffles. So that's fun. Let's see what else. Ruffles. Oh, bulb, pin, and banners. These are more punches. I'm going to show you this in just a second. Again, these strips, those ones that I showed you, the skinny strips, I just took a bunch of those, cut them into banners, and when I was at my stamping point, then I added all of these, and I had, and then I accessorized and added the ribbons. So, boom, boom, diggity. All right, and then these, I'm just going to show you, these are just hole reinforcers. And I wanted to show you how I make mine because I think it's easier. I just, basically, I'm using my regular hole punch and a 1-inch punch. So I'm just going to, for the sake of doing this, I'm just going to show you what I do first. This is a piece of cardstock folded in half. It gives it more durability and you don't have to have a lot of layers. So what I do is I punch my hole where I'm going to have my hole reinforcer. Might be, I better just do 2. Okay. Then I take my circle punch and put it where I think it will be centered. Now that's a big one, so you can see it. Here's my small. This is like, I don't even know what size this is. Oh, well, I'm just going to put it in here. I know you won't be able to see that very well. But this one might be a little harder to do. I line it up. Punch it. Now I've got all the holes already punched. They're ready to roll. Here's one that's already done. I really want to take this off of here, but it looks like it's... There we go. So look how fast you can get these done. Now again, remember, we're talking one day. And I did all of these projects. And when I'm talking one day, I'm not talking I started at 7 in the morning like I like to start my day. I'm saying I had my coffee. It was about 9 in the morning, and I worked till about 3, and I got all of this done. So, but again, I wanted to make sure that I showed you what really you could accomplish in a day. And it's, again, all about being efficient. This one might, you know, starting from your big scraps and working your way down. Now, am I going to say, I didn't have probably as many scraps as some people do. So, you know, it may take you longer. But, you know, now you've got that if you wanted to do something with it. But you guys get the idea. My battery is still saying it's low, so I'm trying to hurry. Let's see. I'm going to put those aside. Put that aside. Let's see. Okay. Corner tucks. Honey Trump has a really good video, but sometimes you'll just have normal pieces of paper that automatically can be put on a book page, you know, in a corner. If they're already kind of going there, or you want to make them into that, do that. Honey has a great video on her channel. I'll try to remember to add it. But these are little, let's see. Got acetate over here. Okay. So these are little corner tucks. They go right over. Oh, that one didn't work out too well. Right over the top of your piece of paper. And then you can also create these bigger ones. Let's see. Let's just take this piece of paper. And these are really good. These are probably one of my favorites that she did. Oh, tell me that didn't glue together. Did it? It feels like it did. Oh, maybe I just didn't cut it. I might have just forgot to cut this one. Good to remember. That's why you should watch Honey's video, not mine. And now the paper needs to be bigger. But you kind of get the gist. This would go over a big size paper. And this is a piece of this cut off the top. So I made a bunch of those. Still, you're doing good with all your supplies. There's nothing crazy yet. Paper clips. You're going to want to add paper clips to your list. So one thing I did, and I probably made a huge mess because I put these all together. When I get to the embellishing and ribbon portion, I put all my ribbons on, and I go to my sewing machine. I sew right over those paper clips, and now I've got a bunch of paper clips. The other thing I do is covered paper clips, which we've done. I did 2 ways. Here's one, and I do have videos on this. These are covered with the tab out, and then when I get to the embellishing side, I add all my ribbons. And then if you wanted, so those are all like that. I wanted to show you this. So here's a quick way to do this. I think I can feel my way through, but these have already been covered. In fact, I'll just show you and then I'll cut them. So all I do is take a piece of paper. This is a piece of scrap, and I put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those on there. I take, hang on, a piece of double-sided tape. That just kind of secures your paper clip. It's also going to secure, I think I'm going to use, it'll also help secure your paper and your papers together. Remember, everything that you see here came out of my scrap bin. Okay. Oh, I must have, at some point, done a piece of collage. Getting that right up there. Same thing on this side, which I probably don't need. It's probably overkill with this much tape. Tape it down. I say give it a good glue, but I'm hurrying because I don't want this to die before I'm done. This being my camera, phone. So I'm going fast. What else do I want to show you? Paper clips. Oh, the buttons, which the rest of the things are not things that have to be. We'll set that aside to dry. And then you just kind of have to feel for where your paper clip is. So I kind of go, okay, there's one there. There's one here. I'm going to cut right down the middle. There's one here, cut right down the middle. I can get through these in a real hot minute. And now I have 4 paper clips that I can embellish when it's embellishment time. And I just make a great big pile of everything in, well, it's an orderly pile. And there you go. You've got your paper clips. So we'll put that aside so I can punch those later. Okay, paper clips. What else do I have to show you? Buttons. Okay. I have a video coming up where I found all of these plastic buttons. This bag full of plastic buttons. Here it is right here. It's in one of my thrift hauls. They were not pretty, but they were kind of cool, and they were probably pretty cheap, but I don't want to always use my great, fun buttons. So I just got Mod Podge. Add Mod Podge to your list. And I just used some of the napkin that was in there. This is some really old paper that ended up turning out super, super cute. And just started covering the buttons. It's a bee. Here's some more old print. This one I did on both sides. This one I just did on one side. This is actually fabric. And I'll just lay these out. There's some music paper. I love this sunflower. But old buttons, especially if you've got, and probably, if you've got real old book page that's real thin, and or napkins, then add Mod Podge and a paintbrush to your list. Okay, what do I have left? Stamps. Then after I've gotten done with pretty much all of that, I start stamping, and I make tickets. So when I'm sorting everything, I put all those long pieces aside so I can make strips of stamps. Here's some words. Here's some more. This was a piece of wallpaper I had. You can make book plates. You can take your vellum and print and stamp on that. But I do all my stamping all at once. This is one of my favorite things to do. I have got some favorite number and word stamps. I put them all on a page at once, so I have them at the ready, cut them up, put them in my stash. Done. And finally, what might be some of my favorites, whatever paper that I have left, and maybe I put like papers together. I literally grab a bunch of papers. There's vellum. This is some of Amity Bloom's. This is my paper. And I sew them together. I don't glue it. I don't do anything. It's sewn together. Great way to make more pages. You can collage this way in a really fun and easy way. And then I create because I'm getting ready to embellish, right? So I want to create my clusters first. So you've seen me create these paper clusters many, many times. I lay all my papers down. I sew around them. This is just a piece. I don't know what I was planning on doing with that. So I used it as the base. And then when it was embellishment time, I added all of the little pretties. Same way with my fabric. So I lay out all my scrap fabrics. This is all I have left that is tiny little scraps out of all the stuff. I mean, this box was literally overflowing. These are all what I would call viable pieces. And some of them I wrapped up here. But I used a ton. And then I did the same with my banners. So I added all of those. These I have not embellished because I wanted you to see how that looks before I do that. But now I've got buttons that I could put on or, all kinds of fun things. And I think that's it. Yeah. 35 or 34 different ways that I actually spent my afternoon busting through all of my paper. And now what I'm down to is this little bit of paper, an empty bin, which for my current scraps, and then those that I have all the time, and I'm left with my collage stuff that I'll probably do this weekend. So, wow, that was a whirlwind. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it was beneficial in kind of maybe creating a process You know, some of you might want to embellish as you go. Knock yourselves out. It's up to you. Just as from a time perspective, it works for me to do it at the end. So, and trust me, I have to stay focused because I squirrel. I'm telling you, the squirrels were running rampant out of my house and in my head when I was doing this project. But I hope it was beneficial, and I hope it gave you a little bit of perspective on how to organize in a quick way, in a timely manner, and not have it be overwhelming, and to make it fun in the process. So with that, my friends, I want to wish you all the best, and remember to take time to just be. We'll see you next time. Cheers.